My name is Asher Uchiyama. I was a Polkela intern at City and County of Honolulu, working under Director Mark Alexander at Office of um, Mayor's Office. And we are going to introduce our panelist today, Andrea Gaines. Andrea Gaines, she's a program supervisor for the City and County of Honolulu, DCS Department of Community Service, Work Hawaii Division's Rent to Work program. Andrea has been the supervisor for the Rent to Work program since 2016 and has over 15 years of experience in social service ranging from frontline mental health support up to supervising and managing programs. Andrea earned her degree in psychology and sociology from the University of Central Arkansas in 2000 and has been living and working on Oahu since 2009. And please welcome Andrea Gaines.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and I'd like to thank you all for taking your time to come out and hear a little bit more about the Work Hawaii Housing Assistance Programs, which consist of the Rent to Work program, our partnership with the Elderly Affairs Division for their housing placement, as well as our Kumubai program. So the Work Hawaii Housing Assistance Programs is a grouping of housing assistance programs that are administered through the City and County of Honolulu Department of Community Services Work Hawaii Division. All right, so the Work Hawaii Housing Assistance Program's mission is to provide a holistic approach to housing assistance to meet the needs of both individuals and their families residing in conditions of homelessness, as well as the needs of our growing Kapuna population. When we talk about these programs, we're going to go ahead and start with the Rent to Work program. Of the three, the Rent to Work program has been around the longest. So the Rent to Work program was initially our standard operating procedures were initially sent to HUD in 2008 for this new rental subsidy assistance program, which became Rent to Work. In 2009, HUD approved the standard operating procedures and the Rent to Work program was put into operation. On October 1st of 2009, Rent to Work successfully housed their first household in a studio unit managed by West Oahu Realty. They were our very first landlord to ever work with. And we actually still work with them regularly to this day. To date, the Rent to Work program has successfully provided rental subsidy assistance coupled with intensive case management as well as employment training and opportunities to 623 households. And for us, a household, it can be anything from a single person all the way up to a family of 10 or 12 individuals. So, for Rent to Work, the big portion of how we get to where we get is teamwork. It takes a lot of people working together to get to the housed point. So it takes the referrals that come in, the case management that's provided, the security deposit assistance from all the other agencies, and then the case management that's provided during the time period that they're with us to ensure that they can sustain their housing after they're finished. So the way our process starts is we receive a referral from a third-party agency to the Rent to Work program. So this is our Rent to Work homeless referral letter. The HADA household for this family has to attend a regularly scheduled monthly orientation and confirm interest in our program. Because we do fully understand there are a lot of different options out there for families. We're an option, we may not be for everybody, so we'd like them to come, hear about the program, and make a decision at that point, does this sound like a program that's going to work for them? If they are interested, then they can submit all the eligibility documents and complete the Rent to Work application. So the eligibility documents for the families would consist of photo IDs for all the household members, Social Security cards for all the household members, birth certificates for all the household members, and if you happen to have household members that are non-US citizens, we need passports and I-94s. After they've submitted those documents, they've completed the Rent to Work application, and they go through background check and income eligibility. Now we're looking for some very specific things in our Rent to Work background check. We're looking for whether or not they have a lifetime registration requirement on a state sex offender registry. As we are funded by HUD, that's one of those disqualifiers from HUD. Also, there can be no manufacturing or distribution of methamphetamine convictions. That is also a HUD requirement. There can be no monies owed to a public housing authority in connection with Section 8 of public housing assistance. Now with this one, as long as they are willing to pay back the money that they owe to Section 8 of public housing, we're able to work with the family, but they do have to pay the monies owed first. The next thing we're checking for is, are they at or below 60% of the area median income for their household size? Those numbers change on an annual basis, so depending on how many people are in the household will impact how much money they're able to make. Once all of those are completed, they'll move forward to the case managers. What the case managers will do will assist with having them complete financial literacy classes, so our Money Smarts classes with Alulike, or we also accept the Hawaiian Community Asset class as well. Then the case managers are going to validate their ability to pay the established 30% of income towards monthly rent with savings. So their tenant share is 30% of their gross income goes towards the rent. Rent to work will pay whatever remains. Now, what the case manager does is they take a look at the client's budget. They like to make sure that the client can actually afford to pay that 30% portion and still pay their other bills. So that way we can ensure that when we house them, they're going to be stably housed paying their 30% portion. Another piece that the case manager will work with them on is obtaining security deposit verification, either in a bank account or via commitment letter from another agency. Either one is fine. If the family comes in with enough savings that they can pay their own security deposit, which is the equivalent of first month's rent, full first month's rent, then that would be fine. If they don't have that in their savings account, we're going to make referrals to some of those other partner agencies that assist with security deposit. So as long as they have one or the other, bank account or commitment letter, they'll be able to move forward. So after all of those things are validated, the family is considered to be rent ready. So when they're rent ready, they're transitioned over to our housing assistance specialist to attend the coupon session and receive the coupon. So for a rent to work program, the coupon session and the coupon are the equivalent of what we would refer to as a voucher. This is where they're able to actively go out and search for housing. So we have them search for and locate housing within our payment standard. And they could do this with as much or as little assistance from our housing assistance specialist as they would like. He's going to provide them with 3 unit leads at the session. And our encouragement is always to look at those 3 unit leads because these are landlords we work with. They're landlords that are familiar with the program. They are landlords that are open and willing to take our clients despite the poor credit issues and things like that. But we don't discourage clients from bringing their own units as well. If they happen to have something they've seen that they like, they're more than welcome to bring that as well. Now, once they find the unit that they like, they apply for the unit, the landlord's willing to rent to them, they would complete a rental packet. And then the unit has to pass all the inspections. So that would be a housing quality and safety inspection. We want to make sure that it's a safe, comfortable living environment for them. It's also got to pass a rent comparable test to make sure that it's comparable to the other rents in the area. And then a zoning check to make sure that the building is properly zoned. After it's passed all of those things, we complete a contract and we sign a lease with the new landlord. And at that point in time, the client is now leased up. And that's the process from the start all the way to getting into housing with us. Kind of an overview of the process. Now, we do offer a great deal of supportive services while they are with rent to work. So there is intensive one-on-one case management for the duration of time that they're with us. This is not a program where we put them in the housing, we pay their rent, and then they never hear from us again. Very short-term program rent to work is. 12 to 24 months of subsidy assistance. During that time, they get full case management. They'll have the same case manager from the time they come in to the time they exit our program. The whole goal being, how do we keep them in their unit after the subsidy is done? We do referral assistance for supportive services, so childcare, education, training, and employment needs. We are partnered with the American Job Center Hawaii, so it's a one-stop employment center. We promote savings through the financial literacy education. The whole goal there being that nobody should have to live from one paycheck to the next. We want to promote savings. We want people to learn how to put money aside so that way we can avoid being in similar situations. They have something to fall back on. Nobody should ever have to decide, what bill do I not pay because I have to buy groceries. We provide a work experience subsidy for up to 6 months. So if the family comes in and they have a household member who's not working, wants to gain some skills, we can do a work experience subsidy for up to 6 months in another office where they can gain some skills and they'd be able to put that experience on their resume. We assist with the affordable housing applications because we fully understand that fair market rent and affordable housing rent are two completely different numbers. Our goal is to get as many of our households as possible into affordable housing. We also understand there's generally a wait list for a lot of them. So we have them start filling out the affordable housing applications early on in their time with us so that during that 12 to 24 month window, they have time to work their way through that wait list. We work with the landlords, property managers, and owners to improve the unit search and placement. The whole goal being to get them placed successfully and to make it less stressful on the client. Because a lot of people have been denied before, and a lot of the time they're denied for things like poor credit, things like that. We find that when we work with the landlords, we advocate for our clients. Most of the landlords are willing to go ahead and give them a shot. As previously stated, we've got the link to the employment services with the American Job Center Hawaii. They are a one-stop employment center. Everything employment-wise you need is located downstairs from us. We can also do bus passes to assist with travel to and from work and for employment searching purposes. Now, the long-term housing support. So we start off with the assistance with obtaining a rental unit with individualized guidance and support from the housing assistance specialist. In a sense, our housing assistance specialist becomes a personal shopper for housing. What he is doing is he goes out and he takes a look at the family size, the unit needs, where is everybody working at, what locations do they want to stay in. And we attempt to find housing that will fit within our payment standard and fit the family's needs in those locations. If you can't find an immediate location, he'll start searching outside those locations to see what else he can find. But we try to get as close to the area we've requested as we possibly can. And we provide up to 24 months of rental subsidy assistance to provide the time to stabilize, pay off debts, create a positive savings, increase total household income, and locate or transition to affordable housing. Families who decide to really take advantage of the program can do a whole lot with that 24 months of rental subsidy assistance. We do assist with the location of more affordable housing options if the current unit will not be sustainable for the household. So if it's just after the 24-month window of time, as we're inching towards the end of that, we're going to start looking at, can you afford to remain where you're at? So a lot of that's going to have to do with, where's your income at? Where's the household income at? Can we stay? And if not, what is a more affordable option? As part of the goal while they're with the Rent to Work program is to increase their household income, either through pay raises, second jobs, better paying jobs, things like that. Even other household members going to work would increase the household income. So if the household income is increased enough where you can afford to remain where you're at with no subsidy assistance, that is absolutely wonderful. Most of our landlords are more than happy to keep our clients as long as they can pay their rent on their own. And if that's not the case, that's part of the reason we've been filling out all of those affordable housing applications throughout the time that they're with us. And we can also go back to our housing specialist and take a look at what other options are available right now that are less expensive than where we're at and still meet the needs. Now, if the family is going to be able to remain in their unit, we're still going to provide information and resources to assist them with that remaining in the unit and continuing and maintaining their self-sufficiency. Because we recognize anything can happen, people may need help again at another point in time, so we want to make sure they have all the information, all the current information resources that are available. And we can also do referrals to other housing and support options as needed. Now, we also have 2 other housing placement programs in the office that are strictly geared towards our Kapuna population. One of the things we've recognized is that our Kapunas are on very fixed incomes and they need some assistance with their housing options. So because they do need some assistance, we do have a partnership with the Elderly Affairs Division to do the Housing Assistance Program. We assist with the location of housing within the client's budget. So for our Elderly Affairs Division program, there is no subsidy for that program. What we're looking at is what can the household reasonably afford? So we've established a great deal of partnerships with our senior affordable housing options. So that way we're aware of when they have units available. We're also aware of when they have 30% units available, because those are considerably less expensive, and for some of our much lower income pool, it's a good option for them. We also spend time looking into room rentals and other options that would be good for them, as well as potentially transitioning to higher levels of care depending on their needs. Now, we can dual enroll with the Rent to Work program if the client from the Elderly Affairs Division program meets the Rent to Work eligibility criteria. So for that one, they would have to be able to be referred to us and validated as homeless, because the Rent to Work program is a homeless services program. We can also directly refer individuals who are over the age of 60 to the Elderly Affairs Division for additional support, such as home delivered meals, chore service, transportation services, attendant care. Because sometimes what happens is we actually get a client that comes through the Rent to Work program that may actually be a better fit for the Elderly Affairs Division program, or could potentially just benefit from some of the additional supports that are offered there, as well as the supports they can get with the Rent to Work program. We also have a Kumavai program. So the Kumavai program was just started in this past March, actually, March of 2020. So it's permanent supportive housing for Kapunas. So these are 20 project-based studio vouchers. They're located in the Kumavai building at 1902 Young Street. So to qualify for this program, individuals have to be 62 years or older, and they have to meet all the criteria for the chronically homeless status. They also have to be able to live independently, because it is still an independent living program. Yeah, currently the program is full and it is on a wait list because there are only 20 project-based vouchers. But all the clients for this program are actually dual enrolled with the Elderly Affairs Division for the additional supports that are available through the Elderly Affairs Division. Okay, so those are our 2 other options as far as more housing placement for Kapunas. Then we have the housing placement for the Rent to Work. Okay, so that actually went considerably faster than I thought it was going to run through. But I guess now is a good time if there are any questions as far as Rent to Work programs, referrals to the Rent to Work program, referrals to our EAD program, or even how to refer and get placed on the Kumavai program's wait list. Now would be an absolutely wonderful time for you to ask them, because I finished about 10 minutes earlier than I planned, so I actually have plenty of time for questions.
Thank you, Andrea, for amazing presentation. So we are open for a Q&A session. So you guys can able to access the Q&A tab on the right bottom of the screen, and there will be a column or space where you can input your questions and then send it directly, and then we will answer it on live, or she will be answering it. I will be reading out the question. Actually, there is a one question being asked on the chat. It says, where is this offered? There's a one question that says, where is it offered?
Where is which?
I think it's about where is your program being offered, like a location wise.
Okay, so all programs are actually offered on the island of Oahu. So rent to work, because it's housing assistance, we can actually house anywhere on the island. Basically, any landlord that is willing to accept the rental subsidy assistance, we will work with, as long as they're on the island of Oahu, because it's a city and county of Honolulu program. The Elderly Affairs Division program is also located on the island of Oahu. Now, if you move off the island of Oahu, you would wind up going through the Elderly Affairs Division for the city and county that you're currently residing in. And then for the Kumuvai program, because they are project-based vouchers, all of those are located at 1902 Yonge Street in the Kumuvai building.
Okay, thank you so much for answering a great question. Following question, so there's going to be another question that says, do these CT have to be homeless? For example, let's say have a chronically homeless status.
Chronically homeless is required for the Kumuvai program. So that would be for our 62 and older. Now for rent to work, they would need to be validated as homeless, but not necessarily chronically homeless. For the Elderly Affairs Division program, there is no homeless status requirement at all. It is just 60 and older. They can be housed, they can be homeless, they can be residing with family.
I see. Thank you so much. And moving on to the next question, is there a list of agency referrals?
So there's a list of agencies. I'm sorry, I missed the end.
Is there a list of agency referrals?
A list of agencies that can refer? We do have a regular list of agencies that refer unsheltered clients to us. Now, anyone who's residing in a transitional or emergency shelter, those shelters are able to directly refer. Now, if a client is unsheltered, depending on their location on the island where they're unsheltered at, Kalihi Palama Health Center can refer. The Institute for Human Services can refer. Univai Rest Stop can refer. Ke'alaho West Oahu can refer. Alea Bridge can refer. The U.S. Vets can also refer. And those are the primary ones that we get referrals from as far as unsheltered status goes. And theirs would vary by where you're at on the island, will impact which agency you go to.
Thank you so much for a great answer. Is there anyone who has any questions for Andrea or anything about Work Hawaii or Luna program? There's definitely a lot of programs available, and I'm sure people might have questions regarding to the program. So we'll wait. Oh, so there's another question. We have a question that says, is there any changes on the time limit frame for turning in documents due to COVID?
We actually do not have a time limit on turning in documents. As soon as documents are turned in is when we process things forward. So there's never been a time limit, well, aside from the 2-year window of time. If they wait longer than 2 years, they would have to reattend orientation. But beyond that, we'll keep their case active as long as they're communicating with us.
Thank you so much. Moving on to the next question. Can it possible to refer themselves or have to go through an agent?
But they would have to be validated as homeless for the rent to work program. So usually they have to go through an agency for that. But we do have a wide range of agencies that are able to refer them. So we'll generally provide them with the information as to which agency based on where they're located at.
so much. And question: per, can the can I person be referred before they are employed, or if they are just have become
They can be referred before they're employed. They do not have to be employed prior to referral to us. We will work with them and we'll work with them on helping them locate employment.
all right? Thank you. How long does this process take from beginning to house?
The length of time for the process tends to vary by the household. So part of it is going to depend on, do they have their documents? Are they ready to move forward? Were there any issues in their background check? If they move through all of that and they get to the case manager, then it's, where's their employment at? Do they have their tenant share saved? Do they have their security deposit? All of those pieces, depending on where they're at with that, will impact how fast they move. I've seen people be referred and move into housing within a month and a half. I've also seen them be referred and move into housing a year or more later. It very much depends on the household. The more motivated they are, generally, the faster they move forward because they're the ones that are turning in the documents. They're working on their savings, they're working on their budget. So it kind of varies by the household.
I see. Thank you so much. All right. Moving on. What if children are not in household at the time of the application, but will return once housing is
That would be one of those decisions that would be made on a case by case basis. We would need to know more information as to why the children weren't in the household. We would need documentation about their current status. So really that one would very much be a case by case individual basis.
Thank you so much. All right. Is there age restriction to apply?
Okay, so we do have age limits for the programs. So 60 and older for EAD, 62 and older for Kumuvai. Rent to work, your head of household has to be over the age of 18 because I have to be an adult who's legally allowed to sign documents. Beyond that, rent to work can run 18 all the way up through, well, any age pretty much at that point, as long as they're over 18.
So I think there's a lot of question about where can we find this information, how can we subscribe to your resources, if you can comment on that.
Okay, where to locate this? So we don't necessarily have our own website, but we are located on the city and county website, the Department of Community Services. You can locate the rent to work program there. We also feel more than free to come down to our office at 1505 Dillingham Boulevard. We're in Suite 216. You can also give us a call, send me an email, andrea.gaines@honolulu.gov. I'm always more than willing to take a couple of minutes to talk to somebody about our program, explain processes, resources, locations, anything like that.
I see. Thank you so much. Let's see. There's a lot of questions. But I'm trying to see if there's any question that can answer a lot of people's questions. So
Okay.
and a lot of times it's a client based, right? So you kind of need to consult with the person and decide their direction and where they should go and what program is a fit for them and the process that they can do and stuff like that, right?
Yes, yes. We try to individualize as much as it's possible. So we want to make sure we put the client where it's going to be a best fit. And a lot of decisions There are some overarching decisions that are just the same across the board, but a lot of the decisions made and the directions that we go with things are going to be based on what's the family's need at that point.
That was my question, or I guess I just wanted to know, and maybe attendees may wanted to know um, how it works. So, yeah. Is there any question that anyone have? We're going to sit here for a minute or two, and then try to see if any more questions are coming. Definitely a lot of information for, because there's a lot of different types of programs and stuff like that. And you guys can totally check out the DCS webpage, and then you guys can able to find the organization there as well. So no question? Anyone? Anyone have any questions? All right. Well, I guess, I have one question. Sorry about that. I skipped your question by accident. So, a question, I work for a third-party agency that we refer clients. However, some clients are taking a little too long to be called for an orientation. Some are faster. Is there a reason for that?
Did you call to validate that we did receive the referral? Because I know sometimes people will send it and it may not actually come through on the fax machine. We do try to call depending on when the referrals come in and when the orientation is scheduled. So if your referral comes in and I don't have orientation scheduled for about 3 weeks, they're not going to be invited until we have the orientation scheduled. But I do know occasionally we don't, everything comes through via fax. Sometimes, unfortunately, things don't actually come through the fax machine. So it's always a good idea if you fax something in and you haven't heard, and the client hasn't heard back from us, go ahead and follow up. That way we can let you know whether or not we did receive the fax. We can also let you know if we've reached out to the client and we're just pending a return call by them, because occasionally that will happen too, where we've reached out 2 or 3 times and sometimes the client's phones are no longer working. So if you can just go ahead and give us a call, and we'll be more than happy to answer whether or not we actually got the fax.
Thank you very much. So we have another question here. So besides Kumuwai, is there an age requirement for rent to work?
Just as long as the head of household is over the age of 18. That's really the only age requirement, because they do have to be legally allowed to sign the documents, legally allowed to sign a lease, so they have to be over the age of 18.
I see. Thank you so much for answering that question. Is there anyone who would like to ask questions? All right, so we got some more questions. How are the orientations currently being held? How often are
Okay, so orientations, we've been holding orientations for unsheltered individuals twice a month in the office. Due to social distancing requirements, they are small orientations, so we're doing multiple sessions during the course of the day. So sometimes if your referral came in the day before an orientation and we don't have space available, we may not call that person until the next orientation comes through. It'll depend on the space that's available in the orientation session. Now, for people that are in shelters, what we've been doing is sending an orientation video once a month. We send that with a listing of the referrals received from that shelter. And then the shelter will show our orientation video, they'll do the sign-in, and an interpreter waiver form, and then they send those documents back to us. So that way we have validation that the client attended the orientation at the shelter, and then then at that point in time, the client's eligible to call us and go ahead and schedule a time to come in, turn in their documents, and complete the application process. Because of COVID, we've all had to reduce the sizing for things with the social distancing requirements.
I see. Thank you so much. And we have a question. What was the fax number again?
So our fax number is 768-5882. It was changed a few months ago, so I know occasionally some people fax to our old fax number. We sent out a mass email was sent out probably about 6 months ago when the fax number changed, but occasionally those kind of things get missed.
Thank you. Next question. Do you work with private developers to introduce more affordable?
We actually will work with any landlords, property managers, realtors out there. If they have housing available, we are more than willing to work with you to help you fill your units. And we are always looking for more affordable housing options for our clients. Whether it's a referral for after we're finished, depending on whether or not they're willing to accept the rental subsidy, or if it's a place where we'd be able to place them during the time period that they're receiving rental subsidy, and then they'd be able to maintain it afterwards on their own.
Thank you. All right. So next question. If they don't pass the background check or criminal background, is there any other help they can get? Any other resources they could be eligible
for? I cannot speak for everybody else's background requirements, but if they're not eligible for our program, I usually provide them with the resources provide them with contact information for some of the agencies that have more of the rapid rehousing programs and things like that. Because, like I said, I can't speak for everybody else's criminal background requirements. Now, sometimes for us, they just need to turn in some additional documents on their background. I usually let them know that though when I provide them with their notification that, oh, hey, there was something that came up in your background.
So the next question is, do you honor the Hawaiian Community Assets Money Success courses offered at YWCA Dress for Success?
I do honor the Hawaiian Community Assets Financial Education Workshop. So as long as they have that certificate from Hawaiian Community Assets, that would be fine. It's that program and the program that's taught by Alalike, the Money Smarts, they're the exact same FDIC approved program.
Thank you so much. Question, can we please get the email again?
Oh, my email? Sure. Is it better if I type it into chat? Does that work better for everybody?
Yeah, I think you can type it in the chat, and then if you guys are wondering where the chat boxes are, it's going to be on the right side. And if you look to the very bottom, it says chat. You can click that and it will show whoever that's speaking on the chat. So if you guys need to refer to her email, it's going to be there. The address is going to be 1505 Dalingham Boulevard, the 216, room 216, Honolulu, Hawaii 96817. And then the phone numbers for Andrea is going to be 808-768-5711. The main line is 808-768-5727. And for the fax, that is the most important phone number, I believe. So that one is 808-768-5882. All right. So we're wrapping up almost 15 minutes out. Let's see, we're going back to the Q&A. We're gonna answer some last questions. Can I contact you personally regarding services for child welfare service client?
Certainly. Go ahead and give me a call. We will definitely talk. Yes. Go ahead and give me a call. I will be honest, the rest of my day is today is meetings and I have another training this afternoon, but I should be available pretty much anytime tomorrow afternoon moving forward.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Could you give a brief explanation on how subsidies work?
Okay, so the way rental subsidies work the way our program works is 30% of the gross household income goes towards the rent, and we pay whatever happens to remain of the rent. Now, the way the rent for us is paid, and I do believe most of the other subsidy programs that I've come into contact with also pay rent this way, is that the client will pay the landlord directly their portion. And then the agency pays their portion to the landlord directly. In the case of our portion, because we do send a paper check, those checks are mailed out on the first business day of the month, which means they'll arrive by the fifth business day of the month generally. Now, for the purposes of our program, the client's portion is due on or before the first to the landlord. And to my knowledge, most of the other subsidy programs, they'll either function on checks or they'll function via direct deposit, function in much the same manner where the client pays directly and then the agency pays directly.
Thank you. All right. Next question. How long does the rent to work help families to provide the rent subsidy?
So it's up to 24 months. So we do everything in a 12-month increment. So when we put you in, we do a 12-month lease and we'll subsidize your rent for that 12-month window of time. Now, there are a few things that we expect the clients to do during that 12 months. One of them being they got to maintain or increase their employment. So they're going to have contact monthly with their case managers, turning in pay stubs. We also expect them to save money every month because that whole goal of we want you to be self-sufficient. We want people to start thinking ahead, and we want nobody to have to, like I said, get to that point of what bill do I not pay to put food on the table? So we're going to ask for bank statements every month to ensure that you're saving money. Now the case manager works with the client on how much money can they reasonably save. They'll take a look at this is their rental portion, this is their other bills, this is how much money they bring in every month. So how much of that money can they reasonably save and still pay all of the other bills and live comfortably? And then the other thing we're going to require is the affordable housing applications. And that's only because we fully understand that a 3-bedroom at $1,300 is considerably easier to maintain than a 3-bedroom at $2,600. So our whole goal is what can they afford later? So during the first 12 months, we're going to be looking at are they doing those things? As long as they're doing those 3 things, they've been a good tenant, the landlord is willing to keep them, we're going to do a second 12 months of assistance, and we're going to continue to work on a lot of the same goals of how do we get you self-sufficient? Because we know we're short term. We know we end in 24 months. So our whole goal is how do we keep you in your housing after 24 months?
Thank you so much. That was a great answer. So there's another question. Basically, so after that 24-month period is over while in the program, is there any rent to work program that you can maybe continue to do or maybe reapply, or what kind of support that are going to be offered?
Okay, so we actually start the transition planning process fairly early. The whole goal being transition them into something they can afford, or getting them to the point that they can afford it on their own. So our whole goal there is to start the transition planning process early. We don't want it to be a surprise to them or a surprise to us. So we start that work really early in the process. Pretty much from the time you come in, our focus is on, we know we're going to transition you out. Now, as far as programs after us, we do provide a full directory of information for what are the currently active programs. And when other subsidy programs open up, like when Section 8 opens up and things like that, we definitely encourage all of our clients to apply right away, just because we understand that that is long-term, whereas we're considerably shorter term. And that was something we actually did just recently because the state Section 8 did open up recently. We had all of our current clients that are currently housed go ahead and fill out that application. A lot of them came to the office for the assistance because it was online.
Thank you very much. That was amazing. All right. Last few more questions. If you guys have any question that he hasn't answered yet, you guys could ask on the Q&A section. We have one question just asked now. How many times can you be in rent to work? So for example, if you get out of the transition period and you're sustaining for a while by yourself, but after a few years you might have to apply again. Is that a possibility, or is it possible for a candidate or a person to reapply once again to go through the same process?
Okay, so on that, you know what, I would need, I can get the email address and I will email you back on that, because that's one of the ones that I'm still checking on, actually, is whether or not it would be an option for a second process where I'm checking the cut on things like that.
Right. Thank you very much. All right. Any questions so far? I think we're gonna make this a last question.
Okay.
A third-party agency, can I give clients your office phone number to follow up on their own?
As a third party, I'm sorry, part of it cut out. I missed part of the question.
Sorry. As a third-party agency, so as a person who is a third-party agency, can I give clients to your office phone number to follow up on their own?
Yeah. Yeah, clients are always welcome to follow up on their cases. And typically, if they've come to an orientation, they've actually been provided with the office number for absolutely everybody here, including our main line, direct line for myself, as well as all the case managers, the housing specialist. Although if they're not assigned to a case manager, they should probably call the main line first.
I see. Thank you very much. I think we're going to wrap it up here. So all these information, people can able to find it on either the DCS website, or they can email you directly. Is that right?
Yes, feel free to email me.
All right. Thank you so much. Fantastic. Many works, and it's contributing for a lot of people on this island. It's amazing the work that you do, and along with your team. Well, thank you guys so much for all the participants today. It was fantastic. Had a lot of good discussion in this panel. And moving on, we are, if you guys want to go ahead and move on to the closing session. So it's going to be on the home housing website. I'm going to the link on the chat. So you guys can head over to the closing session from the link, or you guys can refer back to the honolulu.gov/housing/homelessness website, and then you guys can head over for the closing. I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today, and it was great meeting you and listening to everything that you're doing, and it was amazing for me to sit here and listen to everything that you said. So that was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for attending and for all the questions. I really love the interaction and questions.
Thank you guys so much. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Have nice afternoons, everybody.